Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new, and my name is Tanisha and I love taking you along on my reading journey. And today's video is all about the books that are sitting on my physical TBR. I will be going through each book, sharing a little bit about each one of them and why I am excited to read them. I read both in Dutch and English, so you'll see a mix of that in this video. Some of the Dutch books don't have translations, but I still wanted to add them in the video because they are on my physical TBR and I wanted to give you the most accurate list of my TBR. So yeah, let's get into it because I have 40 books to talk about. Let's start things off light and fun with rom-coms and chick lit. These are the kind of books that are perfect when I just want to escape my chaotic life. The first book is The Diary of a Mad Bride. And I have read somewhere that this gives very much Bridget Jones vibes. I have never watched the Bridget Jones movies, but I've heard a lot of fun things about it. This book is about a chaotic wedding, and I have read that there is going to be a lot of secondhand embarrassment, which I cannot handle that well, but I'm still going to try and read this book. And next up is One to Watch. This is about a plus-size blogger who joins a bachelorette type of show, and this story is about body positivity, and I've read somewhere that it is surprisingly emotional, so I'm very curious to see if I'm going to get emotional reading this book. Now let's take a bit of a darker turn from love and laughter to mystery, tension, and maybe a little bit of fear, because it is time to talk about the thriller and horror books. Horror books, I can never pronounce that word. Horror. Anyway, let's talk about the scary books on my TBR. The first one is The Echo Man by Sam Holland. I also have Killing Me Softly by Nikki French. It by Stephen King. I have had this book for over a year. I have been avoiding this book for so long. It is on my physical TBR for over a year, but the book is just so thick, so I have been avoiding reading it, but I really want to get to it this year. It is about creepy clowns, childhood trauma, and a town that has a lot of secrets. And the last trailer book on my physical TBR that fits this category is The Innocent Wife by Amy Lloyd. This book is about a woman who marries a man on death row, and then she starts questioning whether he is really innocent or not. It sounds so intriguing and slightly terrifying. After all of these suspense books, it is time to dive into the fantasy and dystopian books that I have on my physical TBR. First up, Under the Whimpering Door by TJ Klune. This is a heartfelt story about a man who dies and he gets stuck in a tea shop between life and death. I'm so excited to read this book. I love the cover first of all, but I've also heard a lot of good things about this book, so I think I'm going to read this one pretty soon. And next up I have Severance by Ling Ma. This is a dystopian pandemic story, but this is actually written before COVID-19 happened. So I'm very curious to see if her imagination about a pandemic is accurate to what we have experienced. It has not been sitting on my physical TBR for ages, but I still want to get it off as soon as possible because these stories sound so interesting to me. And I also have Under the Dome by Stephen King. It is about a town that gets trapped into an invisible dome. I have seen the series, I liked it. I have been wanting to read this book for so long. Under the Dome is actually the very first book that I added to my TBR on Goodreads when I started my account in 2020. So I hope 2025 is going to be the year where I finally take this book off my TBR. And I will probably film that because that is going to be a journey. But speaking of journeys, let's talk about the books that I have that are part of series. Whether it is the first book in a series, whether I have the entire series, or I just have 1 or 2 books left. These are the books on my physical TBR that are part of series. First, I have the first and third book of the You series. I got them given years ago and I've never started them because I don't have the complete series. So yeah, I want to get to them, but I haven't read them yet. I also have Where She Went by Gail Forman. This is the sequel to If I Stay, which I read in high school. So I have been wanting to get closer to the story for years now, but somehow never got got to it. I also have the entire Maze Runner series on my physical TBR. I actually read the first 2 books when I was in high school, but I don't remember anything about them. So if I want to finish the series, I would have to reread the first 2 books. So that's why the entire series is on my physical TBR, as well as the Caraval trilogy. I bought these books recently, like in 2025, so they have not been on my physical TBR that long, but I really want to get to this series because it is also on my 2025 TBR. More books of series that I have on my physical TBR are Love Unwritten, ASAP, Nothing Like the Movies, and Play Along. We're going to do a little world tour because the next books that I'm going to talk about are international books, basically books that were written originally in a language that I don't speak. The first book is What You Are Looking For is at the Library. This is a book full of short stories about people who go to the library and the librarian changed their lives. I have started this book when I first got it last year, but I was in a reading slump at that time, so I soft DNF'd it and I never got back to it. So I really want to pick this book up because I really liked the first 100 pages that I read. And this is originally a Japanese book. And another Japanese book that is on my physical TBR is Before the Coffee Gets Cold. This is part of a series. I have heard amazing things about this book, so I'm going to try and get to it quickly. I might do a Japanese reading vlog where I read both What You're Looking For is at the Library and Before the Coffee Gets Cold. So if you want to see that, let me know. And the last international book that is on my physical TBR is The Only Girl in the World. This is a French memoir about surviving extreme isolation and abuse. I have started this book maybe 4 years ago. It was so heavy that I had to take a pause, but I still want to finish it because the story was very impactful and I'm also very curious to see how the author got out of the situation. So let's get to the fiction books. I have one historical fiction and also one normal fiction book on my physical TBR. First one is The People in the Trees by Hania Yanagihara, which is the author of A Little Life. I have honestly no idea what this book is about. I solely bought it because I read A Little Life. I hope it's not as heavy as A Little Life, but we'll see. And the other book I have in this category is Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, which is about 2 people who meet in a hospital when they are kids. They bond about being both fans of video games, and then they meet later on in their life and decide to start a company together in video game development. It sounded amazing, and also everyone that I have seen read this book obsess about it, so I'm very excited to read this. I got this as a gift. Now let's talk about the Dutch books that I have on my physical TBR. These are books that are written in my native language. I'm pretty sure none of these have international translations, so I won't tell a bunch about it, but I still wanted to mention them. The first book is called Flamingo Beach, which is a vacation short story in the thriller genre from one of my favorite authors. Another Dutch thriller on my physical TBR is called Fever or Koorts. I have a renovation or verbouwing in Dutch, which is about a woman who renovates her home and her life unravels in the process. It sounds very interesting. And the last Dutch book on my physical TBR is actually a memoir called No Sea Too High or Geen Zee Te Hoog, which is written by a woman who survives a shipwreck and turns into a triathlete while recovering from what she experienced, which sounds like a super inspiring read. So let's look at the non-fiction books on my physical TBR. I don't read a ton non-fiction books, so all of these books I have had for years and years and years, but I'm still willing to keep them on my physical TBR because I want to try and get out of my comfort zone and actually read them. So the first book is called The Power of Habits. Next up is Why We Sleep. I'm very interested in how sleep works and how you can get the best sleep possible. So I'm very excited to read this book soon-ish. I also have the Steve Jobs biography on my physical TBR because I am a Apple fan. So I'm very curious to read all about his story. And the last non-fiction book on my physical TBR is Know My Name by Chanel Miller. And I just know that one is going to be so emotional and powerful. So I'm going to save that book for a time where I have the mental headspace to read a story like that. And finally, we're going to wrap this video up with the classic books. I have Treasure Island on my physical TBR, which I have had for years. I don't know when I'm going to read it, but it is on my physical TBR. And the last book I have on my physical TBR is actually a reread. I know I have read this book in high school. I don't remember anything about it, but I love the movie, and that is The Great Gatsby. So The Great Gatsby is also on my physical TBR. So those are the 40 books on my physical TBR. I really hope I counted them right and I didn't forget any of the books. Let me know what book you have on your physical TBR that you actually want to read soon, because I'm very excited to read all about your physical TBRs. But with that being said, thank you for watching. I hope you liked the video. Comment down below what book is on your physical TBR, and I will see you in my next video whenever I post it. Bye!